Hey book community, well, it is time for our May reading update. Just to let you know what I've been reading this month, and I have had a wonderful month of reading so far. Only halfway through the month, and just some wonderful books I want to talk to you about. So let's talk about them. First of all, on my Kindle, I have read Sealed Empire by Norbert. I have tried to learn how to pronounce his name. I listened to a video that he put up where he pronounced his name, and I still could not repeat what he said. So, Norbert, sorry. I'll get it one day. But anyway, Sealed Empire, I do want to talk about that. It was a wonderful book. It is a self-pub book. Just, if you're looking for a mix of fantasy and sci-fi, I didn't realize I needed a mix of sanity. I need sanity too. I didn't realize I needed a mix of fantasy and sci-fi, but I did. And I'm just going to be honest talking about this book. Now, I don't know who else has read it. I know I've heard Library of a Viking. Johan, I've heard him talk about it. My experience reading it, the first couple of chapters, great. And then we enter into this period of most of the book where I was confused. Absolutely confused. Did not have a clue what was going on. Did not have a clue what was happening. And I did take a small break because I actually started at the beginning of the month and then came back and finished it this past week. But I feel like you're supposed to be a little confused because the characters are confused of what's going on, at least some of the characters. And so I think I was feeling their confusion. So when I took a little break, I came back, I finished the book. Everything was great. In fact, the ending, I don't want to be one to give away the ending. Oh, it was a shocking ending or anything like that. I'm going to say it was a mind-boggling ending. It had a conclusion that I was not expecting, and I highly recommend it. It was a wonderful read. Please pick it up. Next, I'm going to talk about A Fool's Hope by Mike Shackle. Now, I've read We Are the Dead, which is book 1 of The Last War. This is book 2. I'm going to be moving on to book 3 sometime soon. But anyway, I'll give a little warning. Of course, everybody else does this when they talk about these books. I feel like I need to as well. Language. If bad language bothers you, you may want to skip this. It is an adult fantasy. It's grimdark. Not just the language, violence. There are some horrible violence in this book. How do I overcome that? Well, as when we sometimes watch movies, for me, I don't use bad language. Not the kind we're speaking about. But I can kind of tune it out. And I feel like I can do that even more when I'm reading a book. That may not be your experience. That may not be how you do it, but that's just how I do it. It didn't bother me that bad. But if it bothers you, then you need that warning, that along with the violence. But let me say something else about this book. Aside from that warning, why you may want to read it, characters. I say that a lot. I feel like I say that a lot. And I think the reason I say that a lot is because I gravitate towards stories that really dig into the characters, and this does that. I have found that I much prefer books, with the exception of the Red Rising books. I prefer books with multiple POVs that you can dive into several different characters, and this has that. In fact, there are new characters introduced in this book that wasn't in book 1, and I'm told there are new characters in book 3. I'm excited to get to that. So a lot of good characters, a good story. I say a good story. Somebody else who's read it may say, you know what, it's kind of a dark story. Well, it is a dark story, but I still think in the midst of darkness, I still think there's a lot of hope there. Overcoming horrible odds, it seems. So anyway, Fool's Hope by Mike Shackle. Pick it up if you are so inclined. Next, Enemy of God by Bernard Cornwell. I was not expecting to love this as much as I did. And I say that because I read the first book, The Winter King, and it was good. I think I've said this on probably one of the last videos when I was introducing the books I would be reading for the month. It was good. I enjoyed it. The last 100 pages were great. This There was not one part of this book that did not stand out to me, that was not hit at the right time, whatever expression you want to use. Everything about this was wonderful. Pick up this series, the Warlord Chronicles. I heard today somebody may be going to make a TV show out of it. Kind of makes me nervous. If you've been burned by some of the TV shows that they made about our favorite books. But anyway, I put out a top 10 list a while back. Expect in the future for this to be on it. I'm just saying, a wonderful, wonderful story. Continuing to talk about King Arthur. Really, as I read it, I know it's Arthurian. I know it's about King Arthur. He's in it. He's all over it. It's really more about Derfel, who is the narrator of the story. I think it's really more his story and how he connects with Arthur. Very good read. Next thing that I read was Recursion by Blake Crouch. I've heard a lot of people talk about Blake Crouch and his science fiction, his thrillers. This is the first one I picked up. I have no idea what order. I didn't go back to check to see what order I should read them in, but this is just the one I picked up first. I have 3 of the books I'm going to get to after this, which is Dark Matter, Upgrade, and Desert Places. That's what I have so far. I expect I'm going to be reading a lot of Blake Crouch because this actually, they call this Mood Read May. This was a mood read for me. After I read A Fool's Hope and Enemy of God, I told you, and then I was reading Sealed Empire, I kind of felt like I needed to step away from fantasy for a little bit. I don't get that way very often, but I just felt that way. And I said, hey, it's Mood Read May, let me go find something else to read. So I was looking at my shelf, saw this, I said, I'm going to give that a try. I couldn't put it down. For me, you say you couldn't put it down, that may mean you'd finish in a day. It took me 2 days, but still, I couldn't put it down. It was so good. It was such a, you get involved in the story. You're shocked over and over and over again. It takes a turn after turn after turn, and then the last few chapters of this book was unforgettable. If you've read it, you know what I'm saying. If you haven't read it, you need to pick it up. Blake Crouch is also sure to become a favorite author of mine. I feel if his other books are to the same level as this, I feel like he'll be a favorite of mine. So pick that up. Well, what am I reading now? That's what I have read this month. What am I reading now? Well, 2 books that I've picked up to read. Hopefully, I'm planning on finishing it before the end of the month. Dark Age. Finally, I've been able to start Dark Age. I'm only about 13%, I think, right at 100 pages, right at close to being 100 pages into it. Red Rising, that's just been my favorite read in a long time. I have loved it all the way up till the 5th book, I believe. The 5th book, Dark Age. I'm not trying to keep shaking this in your face. Anyway, all the way up into to this book. And I'm going to be honest, it is a different read already. So you had the first 3 books, which was the trilogy. Wonderful, no complaints. Absolutely wouldn't change anything about the first 3 books. The 4th book, I wouldn't change anything about it, but it was a little different than the first 3 books. A little different feel. This is where I would say it really gets, we're going to use that term again, grimdark. This is where the grimdark nature comes into it. This is where it gets a lot more gritty than it already has been. One of my favorite characters hasn't even shown up in the book yet. I'm enjoying it, but I'm ready to move along in the story some more. I don't know how it's going to change, but anyway, I'm enjoying it. At this point, I'm not sure it's going to be my number 1 book, or number 2, or number 3, or number 4, but I'm still enjoying it, and I look forward to finishing it. And then when Lightbringer comes, I really look forward to reading that in the end of July, so it'll probably be August before I can get to it. And then this is what I'm starting reading now, The Fellowship of the Ring. I have some friends local here. We've talked about for a while now that we were going to start in June. Well, something happened in May, and they all decided that we were going to read it in May, so I said, okay, well, I'll start in May. Anyway, so I just started it the other day, and I am 40% through it, and just, it's a reread for me, and just a reminder of how much I love Tolkien, how much I love this series, this book, The Fellowship of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, The Lord of the Rings. I am loving it so much. I just finished today reading, well, yesterday I read The House of Tom Bombadil. Today I read on the Shadow Downs, the Barrow Downs. And once again, I love the character that's introduced in that part of the story, Tom Bombadil. So anyway, that's what I'm reading. That's what I have read. That's what I am still reading right now. And so I hope to have these finished before the end of the month. And I may still pick something else up, and we'll talk about that if I do. But until next time, thank you so much for sharing this little time with me, and go read books.